Have you ever sat in a dark classroom during a lockdown drill, the kind where the teacher suddenly whispers, "Lights off, everyone quiet," and you feel that heavy, suffocating silence wrap around the room? You can hear the faint hum of the air conditioning, the creak of the building, maybe the sound of someone's nervous breathing. You tell yourself it's just a drill, but deep down a part of you wonders, what if it's not? What if those footsteps echoing in the hallway aren't from a teacher checking rooms, but from something or someone far worse? Tonight, I want to take you into that nightmare. 3 true stories of school lockdowns that turned into moments of pure terror. But these stories aren't just meant to scare you. They're meant to awaken something inside you too. Show that in the middle of fear, there's hope. In the middle of chaos, there's courage. And when everything feels like it's falling apart, there's still a reason to believe. Schools are supposed to be safe, bright places where laughter fills the hallways, where friends whisper secrets between classes, where dreams are built from chalk dust and lined paper. But sometimes, those very halls turn into prisons of silence, where time stops and fear takes over. The echoes of those moments never truly fade. Yet, from those chilling experiences, people have walked out stronger, scarred, yes, but more alive than ever before. Because when you stare into the face of fear and make it through, you learn just how powerful the human spirit can be. These true lockdown stories are not just about horror. They're about what fear reveals within us: power to protect, to comfort, to stand still when every instinct screams to run. One cold afternoon in Ohio, the storm outside mirrored the chaos that was about to unfold inside. The announcement came suddenly over the intercom. Lockdown. This is not a drill. The words froze everyone where they stood. Teachers' faces went pale, students dropped everything, and doors slammed shut. Inside one dimly lit science room, 22 students crouched behind lab tables, the flickering lightning outside slicing through the blinds like flashes of warning. The teacher locked the door, turned off the lights, and whispered, "No sound, no movement." Minutes dragged by like hours. The rain hit harder, the wind howled. Then came the sound that made everyone's heart stop. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, dragging down the hall. They came closer, echoing against the lockers, until they stopped right outside the classroom door. The handle turned once, twice, each metallic click louder than thunder. One of the students began to shake, tears streaming silently down her face. The teacher reached over and placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, whispering, "We're okay. Stay calm." The footsteps lingered. A breath, then nothing. Silence. When it was over, they learned that a stranger had entered the school carrying something suspicious. The police caught him just minutes later, before he could harm anyone. No one spoke much that day, but something inside each of them changed forever. They'd faced fear not with screams or chaos, but with stillness. And in that silence, they found courage they never knew they had. Stillness can be the hardest form of bravery. We often think courage means charging forward, fighting back, shouting louder than our fear. But sometimes, it's the opposite. Sometimes, real strength means staying perfectly still, holding your breath, trusting that the quiet will protect you. Those students learned something that day that most people never understand until life forces them. True stillness can save you when the world is screaming around you, when panic threatens to pull you apart. Courage is the choice to stay calm. In our lives, we all face moments like that, don't we? Maybe not in a school hallway, but in the storms of lifetimes, when everything feels uncertain, when fear creeps into your mind, whispering that something terrible is coming. Maybe it's a heartbreak. Maybe it's a loss. Maybe it's the fear of the future, the unknown. In those moments, panic only makes the storm louder. But stillness teaches you to listen, to breathe, to wait for the light to return. It's not easy. Your heart races, your thoughts scream, every instinct tells you to move, but sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to trust the quiet. When those students hid in that classroom, they didn't know what was going to happen, but they held on to one thing: each other. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's found in the trembling hands that stay still when they want to run. It's in the whisper of faith that says, "This moment will pass." And it always does. Fear feels infinite when you're inside it, but eventually, the light finds its way back. The lesson from that Ohio classroom is simple, yet powerful. When chaos surrounds you, anchor yourself in calm, because panic can destroy you, but peace, even in terror, will carry you through. In 2018, another story unfolded in Florida. A middle school teacher found herself locking the door of her classroom as sirens blared outside. The students huddled in a closet, the air thick with panic. One little girl began to cry uncontrollably, her sobs echoing in the cramped space. The teacher didn't yell. She didn't panic. Instead, she started to hum a lullaby, a soft, gentle tune that cut through the fear like sunlight through smoke. One by one, the children's breathing slowed. Their tears stopped. They listened to her voice instead of the chaos. Hours later, when it was over and everyone was safe, one child said, "She made us believe everything would be okay." That's leadership. True leadership isn't about commanding people. It's about calming hearts. When everything falls apart, the world doesn't need louder voices. It needs steady ones. Fear reveals true leaders. In California, a lockdown forced two high school boys who had been enemies for years to hide together under the same desk. Their breathing was uneven, their hands trembling, both terrified of what might happen next. In that moment, all the fights, all the insults, meant nothing. The world outside was dangerous, and survival meant unity. One reached out and grabbed the other's hand. No words were spoken, but that one act broke years of bitterness. When the lockdown ended, they walked out side by side. Sometimes it takes fear to remind us that we are all human. When danger comes, differences vanish. The walls we built crumble, and only our shared will to survive remains. Fear divides, but survival unites. And maybe, just maybe, that's the light hidden inside the darkness. It forces us to see each other, not as enemies, but as people trying to live another day. In Kansas, a small-town school went through a lockdown that lasted all night. The students were trapped in the art room. The power flickered out, and the only light came from the emergency exit sign that cast a dim red glow across their faces. One girl, trying to distract herself from panic, pulled out her sketchbook and drew a candle. She whispered, "This is our light," and passed it around. Each student added something, a flame, a word of hope, a symbol of faith. That paper, fragile and crumpled, became a beacon in the darkness. When the morning came and it was all over, that drawing was framed and hung in the hallway. Even years later, it reminded everyone that even in fear, hope can be created. Hope is not given, it's made. Often when everything else is falling apart. In Texas, during another terrifying lockdown, a student hid under her desk, trembling as she listened to police radios and distant sirens. She closed her eyes and whispered a silent prayer. She said later she felt something warm wrap around her, something she couldn't see but could feel, peace. Everyone made it out alive that day. She believed it was because faith stood where fear wanted to win. There's something powerful about that, how belief can quiet the noise. Fear will always knock, but faith answers the door. And then there's the boy who, after a false lockdown alarm, went home and hugged his mother for the first time in years. He told her, "I don't ever want to lose a day being angry." Sometimes, it takes fear to teach us how fragile life really is. We spend so much time angry, distant, distracted until a moment reminds us that nothing is guaranteed. Every second matters. Every hug matters. Fear gives perspective, and sometimes, it's the wake-up call we didn't know we needed. One girl who survived the real lockdown grew up and became a trauma counselor. When asked why, she said, "Because I wanted to be who I needed that day." That sentence carries so much power. Pain doesn't have to destroy you. It can shape you. Trauma can either break you or build your purpose. Those who walk through fear and still choose compassion, those are the strongest souls of all, and maybe the most overlooked gift of all gratitude. Students who once dreaded the sound of the morning bell said it became the most beautiful sound after their lockdown ended. The ordinary things, the chatter in hallways, the sound of laughter, the comfort of sunlight streaming through windows became sacred. You only learn the value of peace after you've survived chaos. Gratitude is the quiet miracle that follows fear. These true lockdown stories show that while the world can be dark, there's always a flicker of light. Fear is real, but so is courage. Terror exists, but so does faith. Life can shatter in an instant, yet the heart has this unexplainable power to keep beating, to keep hoping, to keep moving toward tomorrow. When you hear stories like these, you realize horror isn't just something that haunts, it teaches. It shapes. It reminds us that even in our weakest moments, we are never truly powerless. So tonight, As you sit in your own quiet space, think of those moments, the stillness, the unity, the faith, the hope. Think about the times in your life when you faced something terrifying and made it through. You might still carry the memories, the scars, the weight, but you also carry the strength, and that strength, once awakened, never fades. It stays with you, whispering in your darkest moments, "You've survived worse." Let's take a moment, right now, to breathe, to be grateful, to whisper a prayer, not just for ourselves, but for every student, every teacher, every person who's ever sat in silence praying to make it through. Dear God, protect our schools, our children, our teachers. Protect the innocent hearts that walk those halls. When fear visits, let courage answer. When darkness falls, let your light guide us home. And when silence fills the room, let us remember that, even in stillness, you are there. Amen.